You are listening to the Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Wildcat Radio Coaches Show.
Two receivers to the right, two to the left. Straight give right up the middle, and Cam Smith has tons of He's gone to the house. 50 to the 45 to 40. Cam Smith down the sideline, one man to beat, and he's going to do it. 80 yards. It's just less than 30 seconds for the Wildcats to get back on the board as Cam Smith goes 80 yards, and the Wildcats regain the lead. Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
And good evening again, and welcome to another edition of the Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Wildcat Radio Coaches Show. I'm Mike Cruz, along with co-host Jackie Baker. We bring all the 2022 Baker County Wildcat football action to all the Wildcat fans out there. And been a good season for the Wildcats so far, 6-3 record. Want to take a moment and thank Oscar Gray and the fine folks down at Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning for giving us a chance every Monday to come and hang out with Coach Kevin Mays and talk a little bit of Wildcat football. And believe it or not, we're getting close to the end of the regular season, last week of the regular season in Florida High School Activities Association regular season play. So Wildcats 6-3 on the season, got a win this past Friday night against Fernandina Beach on homecoming night, senior night back at Memorial Stadium. So it was a good night for the Wildcats to get a win in front of the home crowd. And Coach Kevin Mays, always a more enjoyable weekend after you get a win, right?
It was, up until about 6:30 Saturday.
Yeah.
You know why, yeah.
Yeah, I think we both can.
Kelly Cruz enjoyed it, but we didn't.
Yeah, they texted me about that time. That's when all the Georgia texts came through. Yeah, once they knew they had locked everything up. Just a disappointing game there, but enjoyable weekend. Since the last time you and I talked, Coach, we went to Jackson over there 2 Friday nights ago, and then back at home this week in a district contest against Fernandina Beach. I'm just going to ask you this question, Coach, and you can just kind of summarize, if I told you going into week 10 this year that we'd be 6-3, not the district champion, it might not be the result that you were looking for this year, I know that, but knowing that we're going to have a great opportunity to go to a playoff game this year, that's pretty much locked up at this point. How would you feel about that season if I told you that heading into the last week of the year?
Mixed feelings. Obviously, you want to win every game you get to, but the name of the game is getting into the playoffs, and that's kind of my line of thinking. Scheduling some of these bigger, tougher teams is to prepare yourself for the playoffs. It doesn't matter if you end up 10-0 or 5-5. If you get into a playoff, everyone's look at it as you're 0-0 going into the playoffs, and there's 32 teams in, and you're playing to be the last one. But overall, I would say we're happy. I mean, we're playing with a bunch of young guys, especially on the defensive side, and they've matured and grown up, and we've tested them against some really good teams. I mean, you go back 2 weeks ago to the Jackson team. That was a really good football team, and bounce here or there, we could have won that game, and then you come back this week against a Fernandina Beach team that was a lot better than what people thought they were going to be, and to add in homecoming and senior night all on that, I mean, that's a awful week for me as a coach, but I think the kids enjoyed it. They went out Thursday and did their thing, and then obviously the seniors got to be recognized Friday night and to come out with a win in that game. Obviously we were happy. So to be 6-3, going forward, and hopefully finish off the season 7-3 with a really good chance to host a playoff game, I would say overall I'm happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you go back to 2 Friday nights ago, you go over to Jackson, a 6-1 football team at that time, 21-14 ball game. They get the win. They move to 7-1. They're probably going to be 8-2, 9-1 this year, for sure. Really good football team. They had they definitely had some athletes on the field, about what we expected that we'd see from Jackson. But that environment and that type of game is one of those really good games to test where you are and to gauge from a kid's perspective as you get into the playoffs, because those are the type of teams you're going to see in the playoffs, right?
Yes, yeah. Our region, I think, is set up for us to be successful. I mean, we might have to go up and play a couple teams that we've lost to, but I think we're up to the challenge, and we're a different team we were first part of the year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When you look back at the season, Bradford a team that's undefeated on the year. Baldwin's a team that ended up winning our district, and a team that
they only have one loss.
Yeah, a team with only one loss. We lost the Jackson game to a team with only one loss. Got a great win against Oakleaf. Got a great win against the Georgia team on the road up in Brunswick, and then as it turns out, the Yulee win, coming from behind and winning that game late, turns out to be probably the most important win of the year for these Cats.
Yeah, that was a good one, and even them, they're probably looking at getting into the playoffs too, and there's somebody we could run into again. It'll be. People looked at our district when it came out just by the names and thought that it was a weak district, but you look at it now, and we'll probably have 3 teams that get in, and there's nothing that says Fernandina Beach doesn't get in, at the very last minute if they win this week. So it's a tougher district than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, Fernandina Beach, a different team than we expected them to be. They haven't, no knock against Fernandina Beach, but they haven't been a real solid team of years late, and Yulee a little bit of a surprise in that district the way they played. Years ago had a really good football team there, but they've been down. But overall, you're right. If you looked at it on paper, you'd think, hey, easy district win, but it just doesn't work out that way all the time, especially in this day and age. You got kids going different places, and it's a different world in high school football for sure. So you can't always look at the name on the jersey and just expect that it's going to be what it used to be. But I'll tell you this: it's been a fun team to watch. Frustrating at times from a viewer standpoint, I'll tell you,
and coaching.
and coaching, I'm sure. But like you said, you're going to have some of those challenges when you have inexperience and youth in some of those positions that you do, where you're counting on guys. And it's for me, I got to tell you, for me, it's been an enjoyable ride. This past Friday night, homecoming, senior night, you talked about having some of those challenges as you get on the football field. But 43-17, the Wildcats get the win over Fernandina Beach, and another great night from Cam Smith. And he's one of those guys, and I know that people probably get tired of hearing you talk about the same guy, but Cam Smith's just one of those guys that the Wildcats would say, hey, where would we be without Cam Smith? But some good highlights from this past Friday night's game. I know that zone read really worked out for Blake Mays, and Blake had a really good night. I felt like had a couple of big runs, broke free a couple times, finally got one of those to cash in as a touchdown. So I know he was excited about that.
Yep.
And then 38-yard field goal in the game. Also, other than one, I think, botched snap, kind of blocked extra point deal, he's still perfect as far as extra point goes. Really a weapon that you can count on.
Yeah, it was good to see us get down, there towards the end and be able to kind of work things, run the field goal team on, and get a field goal late. And I'm trying to play the balance of, because Blake, I'll be the first one to tell you, Blake doesn't have the strongest arm. He just understands the offense, better than anyone else, and trying to get Jabari Ruiz on the field some to let him do what he's good at.
Right.
Trying to find that mixture of things, and it's worked out pretty good the last couple games. He's done a good job of throwing the ball and finding Cam Smith and some of those things. But, you said frustrating. I would say, obviously we have to clean the penalties up, but you go back and watch the film, and I usually don't critique referees that much, but there were some bad calls as far as what they were calling. And it's hard for me to take it because it got me very frustrated out there. As much as we were called, you got to let the kids play at some point. But anyways, we got to get past that. But they're, it's good to see the defense playing good with the amount of young guys that we got out there playing defense. And we've kind of played a different defense every year, so that tells you that they're coachable, listening to what we need them to do, and the coach and defensive coaching staff trying to take away what other teams are good at. And we've, like I said, with the young guys playing, we've been pretty successful.
Yeah, I was keeping stats up in the press box just on a scratch piece of paper that I had. I wrinkled up piece of paper that I pulled out, and I think that if you go back and look at it, we had a couple of guys over 100 yards for the night. I know Blake, like I said, got free for a few runs, and I think he had over 100 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Cam Smith over 100 yards again, a couple of touchdowns for him. The one thing that was exciting to see, Derek Major, another guy that was a senior this past Friday night on the field, he got a couple of interceptions and really, he really got shafted because, he really was looking at two probably pick six touchdowns.
Well, that's one of the calls I was talking about.
Yeah.
One of our players, they said crackback block, which that's a big emphasis this year.
Yeah.
But it literally was 5-6 yards behind the ball, and they were chest to chest when the hit happened. To me, that's a no call. But he did that, and then the second one I'm going to put on him because he had the ball in one hand, and we obviously had to correct that afterwards because he should have had 2 touchdowns really.
Yeah, it's funny. Over the years, you go back and think of some of those memorable plays where a guy's running to the end zone and some guy just sprints up from behind. Guys always have to be aware. You got to know you got to know that even if you don't feel like, even if you think you got that touchdown locked up and everything else, you got to know that somebody out there is trying to make a play, and that guy came up, stripped the ball at the 1 yard line. So it turns into one of those deals where, hey, Derek Major should be celebrating 2 pick sixes, and they were good interceptions, and the penalty bug comes back and gets us, and then the turnover bug.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you assess the penalties just because, from a viewer standpoint, if you got people out in the stands watching the game, they're like, man, each and every week we just have so many penalties, and what really hurts is you go back and look at the 15-yarders. The 15-yarders are the ones that just really hurt it.
That's the ones that are unacceptable, and I started taking guys out this week. They had to, they were missing some playing time for getting them. The effort plays, the holdings, you had someone that had a horse collar. You kind of live with those because that's kids trying to make plays and stuff. But, yeah, the personal penalties are the ones that really get you as a coach.
Yeah, just, at some point in time, you are what you are. You get into the season, you're at the last week of the season now, so your team is kind of what they are. But if you had to kind of pick, as you head into the playoffs, what are the, 1, 2, or 3 things that you really want to focus on with this team? To kind of shore up before you hit the field.
I mean, it definitely would be that part of the personal penalties not hurting the team, and we addressed it all week this past week. I mean, just addressed it, and kids get out there and get in their emotions and stuff and have trouble holding it, but they've got to figure out they're doing nothing but hurting the team, and it's been a struggle on our part, and we're going to continue to do it, and hopefully that's not something that costs us farther down the road.
Well, and it's not just a Wildcat problem. I watch you watch as much as I do. Football all weekend long, and you just see it over and over and over. And when you're sitting on the other side of the TV, it's easy to say, "Oh, don't do that." But hey, when you're in the heat of the moment in the battle, sometimes those things get the best of guys. But if you can just kind of chalk it up to, hey, I'm gonna get you next time and walk away, it's a lot better, at least from a team perspective, and you don't hurt the team as bad. But the other piece, the snap situation in the shotgun has got to be a concern for you, just from the sense that, I like to see, I know that these guys that play center, it's a tough job. You got to get the ball back to the quarterback, and then you got to turn around and block a guy. You got to be, you got to have your head on a swivel right there. Center's not an easy position to play. But, man, I'd love to see that thing kind of float back there. It seems like we just drill that snap back to the quarterback, and it causes some problems sometimes.
We've definitely worked on it. Nathan, who's done a really good job up front, he knows he snaps it hard, and we've working on trying to change it to get it so, like you said, it is a little softer.
Yeah.
But he's a 10th grader too,
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things that it's hard to get on him about it. So we've tried to change his grip a little bit and try to do a couple things to get him so it gets back there a little softer. And I think what happened one time this past game, but like you said, that kind of stuff can happen later in the playoffs.
Oh, and believe me, it's no knock on the situation. It's just an observation, looking in and saying, if I had to clean up a couple of things going in, you want to make sure that exchange is a good one. Whether that's the quarterback being prepared and catching the ball with his hands, you got to have good hands to play that position. I know Blake does, but, and then, that center snap is so crucial, especially, at the high school level for sure. But yeah, I know those guys are working hard, doing a good job.
Yeah, him and Blake go out there and do it because Blake has dropped a couple that have been right to him as well. I mean, it's It definitely, you know, like you said, a lot of people take that for granted. You know, just take that part of the game.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So heading in, you know, if the Wildcats can do a good job, clean up some penalties, make sure that all the execution pieces of the game are in good shape. You know, you feel good about the way the teams play, and the defense has certainly been solid. Offensively, the other night playing against the Fernandina Beach team, you know, I want to make sure I give all the folks credit that need to get it. You know, for sure, Cam had a nice game. Blake Mays had a great game. I already mentioned the special teams, you know, did a good job there. Another guy that we talked about, you know, and I'll switch over offense and defense. But man, Orlando Holland has just had, you know, Orlando Holland's a good player to begin with, but he's had a few games here of recent where he's just all over the field.
Yeah, the best thing, or to me the most impressive thing with Orlando is he's really become a leader out there. He has finally seen his role that, you know, when he talks or does things that the team reacts to him, and it's nice to see him become the leader that we wanted him to be. And you look at the two kind of onside kicks we've called the last 2 weeks. Who's the guy that's running downfield getting those balls, and that's him. And you know, him and Blake have a good little thing going there as far as he's got the timing down when Blake kicks it, and he's recovered 2 onside kicks coming out of halftime, you know, the last 2 games.
Yeah, I was just about to comment on that. You know, the other night, and that really wasn't an onside kick. You know, Blake just laid it down there in a spot down the field where nobody's at, and Fernandina guys are kind of looking around, who's going to catch it? Out of nowhere, here comes Orlando Holland to grab the football. I mean, he's just a guy that seems to understand what's going on and understands and has the ability to go make a play when he needs to.
And it's you know, that's another weapon, I guess we could say, with Blake and Boatwright. You know, he's Boatwright, who'll be our kicker the next 3 years. He hangs out there with Blake, and both those guys are really good at hitting certain spots. So, you know, we saw him leave the middle of that wide open and ask Blake just to pooch it up over that front line and see if Orlando can go get it. And he did a good job. He'd have scored if he could return in high school.
Yeah, right.
He'd have gone untouched. But.
Yeah, he was right there on the spot, got the ball. He took off the other way. Of course, you can't advance that in high school, but good, solid play. Orlando Holland's had a good few weeks. You know, Tucker Thrift doing a good job. Chestnut, you know, coming in from that position. He's made some plays. Some young guys that you had to count on here a little bit. You know, Cale Cruz continues to make tackles, and then Case Foster the other night, I think he got a turnover and made a bunch of tackles himself, and he's a young guy too, right?
All the guys you're talking about are, I mean, outside of Orlando, all the names you've said are underclassmen, so they'll all be back another year.
Yeah, Case Foster, I know that I've watched him the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's playing hard. He has some good plays over at Jackson as well, along with Orlando, and then Chestnut again, Thrift. Trying to make sure I don't miss anybody here, Coach. We
had 4 or 5 interceptions, which were big plays. Derek had 2.
Yeah.
Mackay had 1 or 2.
Mosley,
and then Did Dean have 1?
I think Davion did have did have an interception. He also had a good kickoff return again.
Yeah.
I think he ran 90 yards to get 50 on a kickoff return one time. Davion.
We put him back at quarterback once, and that might be another weapon that we can use, you know, as we move forward.
Yeah, then Jabari Ruiz threw a big touchdown pass. He came in and on the very first play on first down went deep, found a guy streaking down the middle of the field, and
Cam.
Yep, threw a laser to him, and I mean that was well executed play for Jabari Ruiz. Good to see him throw a touchdown pass as well.
Yeah, he like I said, trying to find the right combination of using him and Blake in there, you know, is something that we're trying to put together, because Blake has a better understanding of the offense and as far as the reads and stuff, and Jabari has a better arm. So trying to figure some of that out of when the best time to use both of them and to use them at their strengths. So I think we're close to putting it together. Like you said, we got to clean up a few things. But hopefully on both sides of the ball, we're actually kind of peaking at the right point when it counts. Because after Friday, once you get into the playoffs, once you lose, you're done. So, and I told the guys they're going to put 32 teams on our side of the bracket or on our bracket, and only one team wins their last game. Everybody else loses their last game. So.
Everybody else. Yeah, that's that's the sad but true part of sports in general. I'm a huge Philadelphia Phillies fan, but as good as their run has been through the playoffs, the only thing that people will remember is if the Astros win the World Series, right? They won't remember necessarily that the Phillies were even the team they played years from now. So if you want to be the guy, you got to go and win those games, and everybody else is going to go home, and that's just the way it is in sports. But that's why it's kind of like in golf, Even if you shoot 115, but you hit a couple of good shots, it keeps you coming back.
Yeah,
right?
You still remember that. Still remember. You saw that one I had though. Yeah.
you still keep coming back. The excitement piece of that, this being the last week of the season, and it always sneaks up on you, because here we are. Today is actually Halloween Day and October 31st, and it seems like we just started the season a few weeks ago, but week to week the season goes by. So we're going to head down to Sun Lake this week to take on a team down there in Land O'Lakes, a little bit north of Tampa. So a team they're struggling, having a tough year. Any different thoughts in preparation as you get ready to play them versus, kind of looking out for the playoffs or anything else from a coaching perspective?
No, football teams and coaches are kind of creatures of habit, so we'll keep things similar. I would think we get down there, if we're able to jump on them some, be able to get some kids out to try to keep them healthy. That's obviously a big thing at this point. And, the teams that people you talk to as far as in high school football and stuff, they're a big part of the teams that are successful are the ones that stay healthy. You lose a guy here and there, it makes it tough. But no, we'll go around and we'll prepare the same way we have everyone else. They are a team that's 1-8 right now, and they're struggling some. But we'll get on a bus and we're going to leave about 2:00 and head that way, and hopefully be a good night.
So the schedule this year, so we had a couple of these road trips where we made a couple hour drives. So Vieira is a team that we were in year 2 of the deal with them. So they came here last year. We went there this year. Sun Lake, we're going there this year. Are they coming back next year?
Yeah, the schedule, the way it's supposed to work, unless a team somehow can figure out how to back out of something, is that we would play, except the Richmond Hill game, which we're still supposed to go to Georgia next year, but the schedule should just flip home and away. So yeah, they should come here next year.
And the district alignment, for the way it's set up, that's a 2-year deal, right?
Yes.
So
maybe FHSA, but yeah, it's supposed to be a 2-year deal.
But at least for what we know now, aside from maybe the Vieira game, everything that we saw this year in Richmond Hill, pretty much the same, kind of swap things out for next year.
Shane told me they're coming back here because it's hard to find a team for a 1-year deal, especially in the middle of the scheduling cycle. So, yeah, I would think our schedule will look the same, just opposite places.
Well, Wildcat fans will get ready to make that trip on Friday down to Sun Lake, a couple-hour drive. That's always fun to me just because it gives you a chance to get on the road. And last time I told you I was able to stop at Buc-ee's on the way back, so that was fun. But this time going down 75, I think maybe some Love's truck stops, but no Buc-ee's.
Nothing down through there, I don't think.
Hey, I want to take a minute, Coach, and just acknowledge the fact that you've had 3 sons that have gone through the process of playing football and getting through high school at a senior level. And I know that on Friday night you had a chance to walk with your wife and your son Blake. It looked like Brian was supposed to be there, but he didn't show up.
Brian was, Brian was sick, real sick Thursday, Friday. Was a little better Saturday, and he's a little better today. But he was sick, and obviously you get kids like that when it comes to a team, a group of guys that are pretty close, usually close together. You try to keep the sick ones out a little bit just so it doesn't spread.
Yeah, I remember the announcer said his name as well, and he wasn't there. But hopefully he's feeling better now. But the emotions that you have, Coach, you've been here in Baker County 4 years now?
It's my 4th season.
4th season's in Baker County. Brian had a chance to play here. Your oldest son played, further south. But, Brian had a chance to play here and graduate from Baker County High School. Now Blake has the same chance. And that was your 3rd son, so
Yep.
your last time as a dad to walk across the field. Did you have any emotion about that at all, Coach?
Yeah, of course you're proud. I've always been pretty good at being able to separate the two, coach and dad. I learned that early on. But yeah, of course we're proud. You get to see all 3 of them do what they want. They've all been, pretty successful as far as with what they do. And, I always want to go first, so then you can see the rest of the kids come across with their mom and dads and tell them how proud you are of them for everything that they've done. And, senior night's a special night, and then you got to let it go. And that's why, Wednesdays, the Wednesday before senior night, we always take just the coaches and the team out and have a big steak dinner with them and let them get up and talk and try to get their emotions out at that point.
Yeah.
And the senior night on Friday nights is for moms and dads. And, but this is a good group. I mean, 23 of them, it's a big class. And, it's really my first class that I've had that's come all the way through. So it's they're a good group of kids to be around. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully we got 6 more games in us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just wanted to acknowledge that quickly. It's been fun watching Blake. It's always good. I'll tell you this. We've had some years, and I've been on the radio. I actually figured up the other day. So 26 years with the Jaguars. This is actually 27 years with the Wildcat radio. There have been a lot of years within those years where we didn't have a kicker. We didn't have a guy that could go out there and you could count on for an extra point. We had some years where you knew we were going for 2 every time that we scored because we didn't have anybody that could kick the ball. So for me, it's kind of fun to watch to know that you've got a guy you can count on that can kick, and he's made some kicks this year. Aside from the extra points, he kicked a 38-yarder Friday night against Fernandina. I want to say it was Oakleaf maybe that he kicked the
47 or 48.
Yeah, 47. Like it was at least 47. And I know he's made a few others in between there. Kicked a good one at Yulee, and that one, the one at Yulee was so important because if you don't make the field goal there,
you don't have a chance.
You don't have a chance. You're down 2 scores, and you're not going to get the ball that many times. So I tell you, that's been solid. Coming into this year, he probably didn't expect that he was going to play quarterback as much as he has, and
that wasn't the plan at all for him to be playing quarterback.
That wasn't the plan. He's done it, and I'm sure that Friday night for him was probably really special because that first run that he had where he broke free up the middle, I thought he was going to take that one to the house. That would have been a huge run for him.
Yeah.
But then later on in the game, got a couple of touchdowns, and
he must have got a speed from his mom.
Well, I'll say this. It's definitely different when Blake breaks free versus when Cam breaks free, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But hey, no knocking on him. Some of those zone read plays the other night fooled me, and when you're fooling people in the stands, you're fooling those guys at the point of attack down there for sure. And so he's done a good job with that. We heading into the playoffs, I know that you want to see consistency and you want to see the team really peaking at the right time. I'll tell you, based on the way the year's gone, the last couple of weeks, the team's played as well as they have all year.
Yeah, they have. Like I said, clean up a couple things, but as far as play and execution, the offensive line has, I think, as far as a group, that's the group that has come along the farthest as far as their assignment and doing what they're supposed to do. But yeah, if we can get everything going and clicking, and with some of the weapons that we have, and starting to move people around a little more, you look at it, our region isn't the hardest we've been in before. I'd love a chance to get past whoever our first round opponent will be, and then love to have a chance to play Baldwin again, love a chance to play Bradford again, and see what happens.
Yeah, you never know, and you'll have a chance. Playing a team a second time is tough, but they always say that beating a team a second time is even tougher, right?
Yep.
So when you're the team that didn't win those first 2 games, then you've got the advantage of being that guy that's going back to kind of game plan against the things that you didn't do so well the first time. Obviously, Baldwin, you'd have a real good game film to go back and see.
Yep.
Bradford, we didn't really get enough game film, but
Yeah.
you've probably seen some other things with them, and you might get a chance to get a scout or something else. But the opportunity to do that would be there, and we're looking forward to that. Got to get past this week first.
Yep.
So if the Wildcats can do that and get the win on Friday night, Coach, 7-3 on the season with a chance to go play in the state playoffs. Pretty successful year overall. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
The other thing is, I just want to thank Oscar Gray one more time because one thing that. If you ever notice, and if you listen to Wildcat football over the years, I'll say this because I want folks to understand, the folks that sponsor the football team as far as the radio goes, that's something that there's a limited number of people that are on board as far as sponsors go, right? And we go through them all on Friday nights, and we try to give them as much credit as possible. But Oscar Gray is one of those guys, when I look back, he has supported Wildcat football through thick and thin. He has been one of those folks. And, these small businesses in Baker County, they get hit up a lot for financial contributions and sponsorships and everything else. So, the fact that Oscar Gray is kind of one of those guys you can rely on that's going to support this football team, I want to make sure that we give him some real good credit here on Monday night, the Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Coaches Show. We've been doing this coaches show now for probably 12 to 13 years here in town, Coach, and Oscar's been on board for just about every single one of those seasons, and I just really appreciate him. Oscar Gray's as good a person as you'll meet, and when you call Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning, you get that type of service and you get that type of commitment from them. They will come out, they'll assess your problem, and they'll take care of it. And the other thing Oscar wanted me to mention is that they've partnered with a company called Amana, and Amana has great heating and air conditioning products, and Oscar Gray is a licensed Amana dealer. So if you have any problems, I know right now is the time when people are probably about to check out their heaters and making sure their heaters are working. If you have any questions or concern, you can give them a call. They'll come out and check out your unit, make sure everything's working as it should. That's Oscar Gray, Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning, and we appreciate them for being a sponsor of this football show. And Coach, the last thing that I kind of want to talk about is let's just kind of talk about, that the possibilities of, we talked about this, just you and I talking, but you've got 8 teams. So like you said, there's 32 teams in 4 different regions for the state. So the playoffs will be broken down 4 different regions. So you want to get through that regional, and then you go to sectional, and then you get a chance to go to state. That's the way it always works out. So you have to win 3 games to get through regional. Then it's a 1-game sectional between those 2 regions, and the other 2 regions play each other. That's kind of the final 4, and then you get to the state championship game. So inside of our region right now, we know that Bradford and Baldwin, no doubt about it, they're going to be 1-2 in some form or fashion. It looks like we're going to be a 3 seed.
Yeah, we should be. Anything can happen. I mean, Baldwin plays Ed White. If they lose that, we win. The points will get closer, but I think the way it's going to shake out, Bradford will be 1. Bradford will be 1. Baldwin will be 2. We'll end up number 3, and Atlantic out of Port Orange will be number 8 because they're the district champ out of District 8.
Right.
So the way they're doing it this year, they're going to take the 8 teams out of the power rankings and rank them 1 through 8. Atlantic's way down there. They're 3 and 6. But they're going to get a spot because they're district champs, so they'll be 8. The 4 teams that I think are left, and of course anything can change because the new rankings will come out Wednesday, and then the brackets after the final game, which still counts in the system, I think come out Saturday or early Sunday. But I think the 4 teams that'll be left will be North Marion, Eastside, Yulee, and Tucoy Creek. I think we'll play one of those 4. District winner still gets to host, even though we would be the 3, and let's say Eastside is the 6. We would have to go to Eastside. If we play any of the other 3, we would play at home.
Yeah, no, that's
pretty good chance to play at home.
Yeah, that's a good summary. So basically, we'll be seated in that top 8. Looks like we'll be at least in that top 4 based on our seating and where our points end up. So with that, we'd have a 75% chance of hosting somebody that's within those other 4 teams you mentioned. And then, depending upon if that's a district champion, which the only one of those 4 that could be would be Gainesville Eastside. If that were the case and we were to play Eastside in that 6th slot, then that we would have to travel there. So Wildcat fans, the bottom line is we really don't know who we're going to be playing in that first round yet, but based on what we just told you, it gives you a little bit of information. So there's probably a 50-50 chance we're going to be playing at home, and there's probably a 50-50 chance, maybe a little greater, maybe a little bit greater than 50-50 we'll play at home, and then maybe a little less than that we'd have to make a road trip. So get ready, get excited, Wildcat fans. One of those 4 teams is going to be probably based on where things are today, and we're getting close to the end of the year, so most of that stuff shouldn't change too much here and there. unless something just breaks down and somebody sneaks across. If you got a close differential in point standings or something like that. But
and if people want to look Wednesday, they can go on FHSAA.com, go to football and click on rankings, and then it's in a spreadsheet type deal. You can sort it, and you can look. But it's my guess would be that Coy Creek will be number 6 Wednesday. But then who knows what happens, Friday.
And where is Coy Creek? Is that a new
Augustine,
school?
New school in St. Augustine.
New school.
Second year.
Yeah, I saw when I was looking around at some of our other opponents, I've seen their name pop up a few times, and I wasn't even sure who that was. And that's what happens. You get some new schools in the mix. So Coy Creek, obviously a new school, but they must have some decent players because they're in the running for.
Yep, I think they'll play. They play Nice, and I don't know. Nice is having a real bad year. So I don't know. I mean, my guess is going to be North Marion, East Side are going to end up 4 and 5. Coy Creek at 6, Yulee at 7. Which again, Yulee. I mean, to me, Yulee, they could slip up and beat Baldwin too. I mean, they lost by like 3 points or something when they played earlier. I mean, it'll be I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, Yulee's kind of one of those teams. When I look back at the teams we played this year, they have the potential to be a really dangerous playoff team. They really do.
Yeah, I don't want to play them in the first round again. Yeah. I mean, people probably don't want to hear me say that, but they do some things that we don't do, and they have a quarterback that's really good and 3 D1 receivers, and they were a good team.
Well, here's what we do know. Wednesday, the new point standings will come out. The picture will become a little more clear, and then by this weekend, there will be no doubt about where we'll go and who we'll play. And so this Friday night we'll be on the road to Sun Lake, and then next Friday night we'll either be hosting a playoff game or on the road somewhere. Either way, Wildcat fans, stay tuned. Stay tuned to probably the best source of information in this county, word of mouth. Mm-hmm. And then stay tuned to Facebook and other places, and you'll know where we'll go and where we're going when we know.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be in the playoffs, so we're definitely make plans for next Friday.
I'm excited about that, Coach, and I know you are. So I just want to say thank you again. I know Mondays are tough for you with scheduling and everything else, so the time that you take to be on the radio with us each Monday, I know is a sacrifice of your time, so I appreciate that very much. I know the Wildcat fans appreciate it. They get a chance to hear a little bit about the football team and where things are going, so I'm excited about this Friday. Any advance tickets for Sun Lake, or is that something that will be at the gate?
If we get word out, we always put it out on Daily Growl. We'll put it out. I have not had anything sent to me from them yet.
Okay. So keep your eye out this week, folks, on tickets for the Sun Lake game and road game for the Wildcats this Friday. So we're looking forward to that. We'll be back on the air Friday night for Wildcat football. Then we'll have our coaches show next Monday, and then we'll be back on the air next Friday night in the first round of the 2022 state playoffs. Wildcats a year ago went to the Final Four, so we'll see if this team can kind of match that and see how far we can go. So, Coach, I appreciate you joining us, and thanks for everybody listening in here to the Dependable Heating and Air Conditioning Wildcat Radio Coaches Show. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today, Coach.
Thanks, Mike, and, we'll get to talk again, but again, if just so everybody knows, we appreciate everything that you've done for us, and I've only been here the last 4, but I've appreciated, last 4 years of what you've done for me and Wildcat football and that kind of stuff. But this ain't going to be bye just yet.
Oh no, I'm not saying bye just yet. But the pleasure's all mine, man. I'm a Wildcat through and through, and I'll always be a Wildcat. So there's no doubt there. But certainly exciting for me to kind of have those Friday nights free after this year, and also I'll still be checking in on the Wildcats too. So no problem there. I appreciate you saying that though, Coach.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening in. We'll talk to you Friday night, and go Wildcats.